So I am currently working out a strategy guide for the Callisto protocol. So far so good. While I'm doing this, I wanted to stop real quick and talk about like some of the criticisms that I have seen with the game. I didn't want to see too many reviews before I finish the game, but because this game is so divisive, I thought I would go ahead and put in my 2 cents with some of that. Okay. Number one, like the number one criticism I've seen with this game is, it's a simulator for like crawling through vents and stuff. There's too much crawling through vents. Poor Jacob's constantly crawling through vents in the game. Shimmying through stuff to get to another location. Why is it always like that? Actually, that's a clever trick on the developer's part. Alright? Because there's a lot of action in this game, so there has to be a cooldown time between Jacob going into an area, having to deal with some stuff, probably dying like 10 times, and then you go somewhere and you crawl through, like, yes, the vents and the crawling, like the shimmy animations, those are safe areas. They are cooldown times between all this action going on. It's very clever because your cooldown areas, instead of it being this open hub that you can go to and kind of kick your feet up and pick your nose, it's these moments where you're crawling through vents and shimmying in between obstacles to get to another location. Okay, so it gives you a chance to reflect on the stuff that happened before and the stuff you're getting ready to deal with. That's a good thing. It's clever. It's tight. It condenses cooldown time and these loading times. It's actually quite nice. When you get in that vent, you know that you have some time to sort of crawl around and just kind of cool down before you got to go do more badass stuff, right? That's not a bad thing. What else have I seen? The combat is awful. But it's not. When I first started playing this game, I think I died quite a few times to the first 2 like real enemies, like the ones you knew you're going to be facing off with. I decided to sit there and die a lot. Why did I die a lot? I'll tell you why I died a lot. Because I was trying to learn the mechanics, like the dodge mechanics, the combat mechanics, that the game expected me to learn. How many times have you watched some Joe Schmo on YouTube lament over, like, for example, Ubisoft games? I'm so sick and tired of the Ubisoft formula. I'm this, and I gotta go do that said shit to find this said shit, and then it's so on the nose. It's so predictable. Give me something new to do. Give me new ways to do things. You hear it all the time. Callisto Protocol has a very interesting way of trying to get you to do something you've already done before. You've already beat the crap out of zombies in a million games. They wanted to offer you a newer melee system that gives you something, like a different way of doing that. And so I tried very hard to get good at doing that little dodge thing that Jacob does. If you overthink it, it can really get on your nerves. Sure, it sure can. But if you pay attention while you're dying or while you're fighting, how this mechanic actually works, then when things get really hard later on, you'll be good at it. Like you'll figure it out. Now, grant you, melee doesn't always work. Sometimes you have to come up with alternative strategies that require a gun. So you get a gun and you try to incorporate that into your strategies when you're dealing with more than just 2 or 3 enemies. All right, you got to mix it up a little bit. You got to get a little creative. So the combat system in this game is not terrible. It's actually really good. It's a lot of fun once you get used to it. Another criticism I saw in this game. Where are the puzzles? There should be more puzzles. Why are the puzzles so stupid or dumbed down? The puzzles in Dead Space revolved around Isaac Clarke being an engineer. He was an engineer. Like a lot of the missions he went on was to solve an engineering problem or a technical issue, right? So, and it was in keeping with his character. You know, our boy Jacob here, he's a pilot. You know, and he's a big, like, he's a strapping man. So, like, he's got some moves like Jagga. Right? So he's different. He's not Isaac Clarke. He's not going to go out there and troubleshoot an engineering issue. Okay? He's a pilot. He's his own man. This is his story. Okay, so exist in the story, guys. Okay? Stop trying to assume that this pilot, who's just a schmo show, like he's an average dude. He's an average guy. All right? He's a pilot. He's not an engineer. So what do you mean, where are the puzzles? The puzzles are very in keeping for a guy like him. It's fine. What else did I see? The game is boring. That's not even an argument. If you think this game is boring, you did not play the game. But in it, no, you did not play the game. You probably watched some stuff on YouTube and you think you know what the game is about. The game is not boring. Okay? Listen, armchair gamer who sits back and watches other people play a video game, you don't know what you're talking about. This game isn't boring. It can be frustrating. It can be tense. It can be, like, it can fill you with a sense of dread. This game is not boring. This game is not survival horror. That's another one. I kind of agree with what you're saying when you're saying it's not survival horror. It kind of is a little on the survival horror side. You have to manage your resources effectively. You have to learn how to anticipate danger. Like, the people down at striking distance, there's no way you can convince me that, like, their whole, like, some jump scares, like, here and there, they already know you're anticipating that. They know that. They're not here to sell you on the greatest survival horror experience of your life. Okay? The average consumer is completely desensitized to survival horror. How are they going to convince you that theirs is the scariest? They can't. So what do they do with their game? They're constantly trying to build a sense of tension and dread. Tension and dread is all this game really actually offers you. Like, there was like maybe 1 or 2 moments where the game actually jump scared a little bit, but it never really got me. What does get me in this game is a sense of dread. A sense of, oh gosh, what have I got to deal with now, right? That it does super well. So yeah, it may lean a little bit into like action horror to where you're not completely helpless. But when you compare this game to the likes of Dying Light 2, that has this RPG system where toward the end of it, if you go off and you do everything, then you just kind of plop down into the boss arena at the end like Iron Man. Nothing can hurt you, right? because you are effectively the most powerful thing in the game. This game does not do that for you. This game will not do that for you. Survival horror is a very delicate balancing. Okay, no matter how good you think you are, the game never makes you feel like you are an unstoppable god. I've got the day one edition for this game. I've gotten the loot, the little goodie box, and it has helped me get a little bit of an extra edge on this game. But that is not going to stop me from getting my butt stomped, because the odds are never really in your favor. You got to always be strategizing and figuring out what you're going to do next. So it does have an inspiration of survival horror in there, in the way that you're not going to be a god, right? Maybe in Game Plus mode. But in Game Plus mode, they up the ante, don't they? Yes. Another enemy variety is so low in this game. Enemy variety is not low in this game. Like, there's, I would say, I've personally witnessed about anywhere from 10 to 12 different enemy types in this game, which I can't be, don't quote me on this, but I think that's actually more than the original Dead Space. Sure, they're not color-coded to look different, but they certainly behave differently. That kind of trips you up in interesting ways. They don't all come at you the same way. Some of them have like really weird attack features. Some only hit once. Some hit twice. Some will crawl towards you and explode. Others will crawl towards you. Some are like these worm things, and then there's these head things that pop out of a thing. I'm not going to tell you what it looks like, because if I do, let's just say like a male appendage. It looks like the tip of a male appendage. This head comes out and grabs you and tries to drag you to it. There's the chameleon sort of enemies. Like I can't sit here and go down the list of it, right? But if I could write them all down, I know I've seen at least technically 12 different enemy types in this game. Now that I faced off with that two-headed thing, well, maybe like between 10 and 12, right? Yeah, so the story, I don't think the story is terrible. There is a story. Well, there's basically no story in this game. There is a story. It's shrouded in mystery, and it's kind of structured the way Dead Space's original story was presented to you. There was, like, when you're sitting there on your PlayStation 3 and you're playing Dead Space, it wasn't always on the nose. The story didn't guide you. It didn't give you tons of lore books like Skyrim does. It left a lot of questions. There was mystery. There was intrigue. There was somewhat of a twist at the end. This game feels like it's very much paralleling that sort of structure. There is something interesting here. I didn't get to finish the story. If I could put my finger on it, I could be wrong. I feel like these things that you're fighting are a byproduct of an attempt to help humanity evolve to sort of adapt to harsher environments, because humans are now living in more inhospitable environments, and now this thing has gotten out of hand and it's infectious. That's my personal impression of the story. I haven't finished it yet. That's not a terrible premise for a story. It's not groundbreaking, but it's not the worst kind of story you've ever heard, right? So there's a story here. I think a lot of people are just bitter because they're being forced to learn a more interesting form of combat. They're having optimization issues with their games, and it's kind of putting them off, and they're getting aggravated, and now they take that aggravation and now they want to over scrutinize every other aspect of the game and pretend like it's hot garbage, and it's certainly not. This game's great. I'm really enjoying it. This is the third time I've started this game up. I restarted the game because I don't know if the new patch has ruined my save file, or my save file is not taking properly to the new patch. Please, Striking Distance, slow down on the patches. Please slow down. Do not do that thing where you start churning out patch after patch and it ends up hurting the game more than it's helping it, right? I want to replay this game over and over again of my own free will. Please don't force me to replay this game over and over again, because I'm not sure if a patch has ruined my save file. So please be more... Just take your time with the patches. Please don't start slinging patches out. Please. I don't know how far I was in the game when, like, my last video, when you saw, like, the game was completely coming undone around me. I don't know if that's the patch or if that was what was in the original game. I'm going to have to get back to the point to find out. I don't know. I don't want this game to turn into another Dying Light 2, where patch after patch just sort of creates a sense of dread and instability in the game every time a new patch is introduced. Like your save file gets trashed or it's broken. Please don't do that, Striking Distance. Please take time with your patches. Make sure they work. Make sure they're helping the game. Please, please, please. Anyway, so that's all I got to say. Oh, and I'm going to tell you one right now in case I don't get around to reviewing this game. Once the bugs are lined out, do I think that a 10-hour experience is worth $60? Well, if you keep talking about Dead Space, you're talking about games that lasted anywhere from 9, 10, maybe 12 hours a pop. And most of them you had to pay AAA prices to get. From the first one all the way to the third one. They didn't last that long. Do I think this game is worth $60? If I could get past the bugs, yes. Yes, the game is worth $60. I know, Jacob. He's like, what is that noise? I'm like, I know, right? Yes, the game is worth $60 in my opinion. If you get the day one edition, because it's got extra goodies, okay? Without it, I'd say the game's probably more like $45-50. Okay. The experience you get is, in my opinion, it is. It's worth $50. $45-50. You say, yeah, but there's open worlds out there that you could spend hundreds of hours playing. Yeah, you could spend hundreds of hours chasing after this, doing that side quest, tons and tons and tons of padding like cheap cotton candy in your mouth, rotting you from the inside out. Yes, you could have an experience like that. And you could say, well, that's a $60 game. Well, that's funny because I just picked up Assassin's Creed Valhalla 2 weeks ago. I went ahead and I actually bought the game itself. I spent only $20 on that game. It's an open world. It's got over hundreds of hours of content in it. I spent $20 on that. I spent $60 on this game, and I feel like it absolutely is worth the money, especially if you get the day one edition. That gives you the extra crate, that gives you the extra stuff to sell, that kind of helps you have a little more, like you get more butt bucks or Callisto creds to invest in items the way you want to, especially if you know what you're getting into now, right? You can totally put that money, you can invest the credits into your baton and your firearm to help you get a little further down the road. To make the game even more enjoyable. But it's certainly not going to hand you, the game on a silver platter. I mean, it's still going to be a challenging ride if you're not willing to strategize your way through some more intense areas, right? So Yeah, I do. I think I'm really satisfied with my $60, and that money went toward a studio I really wanted to support. I support Striking Distance Studio. I think they did a phenomenal job with the Callisto protocol. Please, please, please slow down on the patches. Make sure they're helping the game. As far as the game not having a Game Plus mode straight out of the gate, shame on you. Glenn, give me your hand. I'm smacking your fingers for not having a Game Plus mode on day one. Shame on you. Shame on you, sir. You're a bad boy. You're grounded. You're going to write me out 500 lines. I will stop being a bad boy 500 times on a piece of paper. Other than that, it's fantastic. DLC content. I don't know about that. I'm not really interested in that. I've never seen DLC content for Dead Space that made me super excited. It always felt tacked on. It never really felt like it worked with the story itself. I hope they're going to change that tradition with story DLC content that they're promising later on for this game. I'm not buying the season pass, so Glenn, make a note of that. I do not want your season pass, but I would be willing to wheel and deal for a really, really good story DLC content for this game because I'm excited and I'm enjoying myself. Season passes this is not a season pass kind of game. I'm not sure what they were thinking with that. Anyway, that's all I got. I'm doing the story over again. I'm not having a bad time yet. Please, please, please stop patching the game before you know whether or not that patch is going to actually help the game. Please stop doing that. Okay, that's all I got for now. You all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, and I will catch you on the flip side. Jacob, buddy, I know. It'll be all right. We got this.